guys in the dark.
So I'm young. I am just out of high school. I happen to need work at this time, so I end up sending in resumes to all sorts of entry-level places. I get some responses, not very many. I decide that McDonald's was the easiest because it is an easy drive back and forth from home and work. I also kind of liked the employee discount part as well. I thought that was pretty cool. The only spot open that they had happened to be night shift. It was about 10 o'clock to about 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm okay with that because at the time I was a night person. A few days go by. I'm really not working the counter or anything like that. I'm mostly just doing all the back end stuff and cleaning up. Our building happened to be off of a little strip mall, right off of the highway. It happens to be the only place that is open there at night. We do get a good amount of customers though. Most of them are from the drive-thru. Anyways, this happens to be on a Friday. It's my third week there, I think. Not really sure. All I really remember is that it was late. I remember that I was grabbing the stacked trays that were laying around in the lobby when someone happened to walk in through the doors. It happened to be a woman. She was short and very pretty. Made up super fancy, you know. She had a nice dress on with some heels. She was wearing a pretty big hat too. Not your average customer for our McDonald's. What was really weird to me at that time was that I didn't see her car pull up. I happened to have a full view of the parking lot from the window. No one dropped her off, so she must have walked there. I smiled at her as I happened to walk by and headed behind the counter. I bent down so that I could restack the trays below. I expected my coworker standing by at the register to serve her to help me out. He didn't speak though. After I had finished, I decided that I would stand up so that I could find out why the girl wasn't ordering anything. By that time, she happened to disappear. I never heard that door open. She was just gone. I asked the guy at the cash register where she went. He asked me, "Who?" I told him the girl with the dress and the heels. He just looked at me like I was stupid. Told me that he had no clue who I was talking about because he hasn't seen anybody come in. I tried to rationalize things. Figured that maybe she stepped in, looked at the menu, and then she decided to leave. There was something definitely strange about that whole ordeal. It didn't make sense why someone who looked and dressed like she did would be at a random McDonald's in the middle of the night. I carried on, and my shift went on normal for the next hour. I remember going on break after cleaning the toilets. I sat down on one of the chairs in the back, right near the kitchen, when suddenly I hear the sound of heels clicking on the floor. It was definitely louder than someone just walking on the floors. It sounded like stomping noises. So I look over, out into the lobby. My coworker happens to be gone from the front. I figured that he went to go take his break as well. But instead, I happened to see the same woman just standing there. Only this time, someone happened to be with her. It was a guy. He happened to have a tuxedo with some fancy black shoes. They were dancing together, like full-on dancing in the lobby, swinging back and forth. It was the most bizarre thing that I had ever seen in my entire life. I watched them for a bit. I was mesmerized before I took my place behind the register. I said something along the lines of, "Can I help you two?" They both just looked at me at the same time. As they happened to stare, I felt a hand grab my shoulder with a firm grip. So I turned around. Nobody happened to be there. I knew someone had touched me, but I didn't see anybody there. So I spun back to the lobby to where the people happened to be, to find them both gone. The guy and the girl had just vanished out of nowhere. I didn't hear any of the doors open. I didn't hear their fancy shoes on the floor at all. They were just there one moment, then suddenly they disappeared. The rest of that night, only a few things happened. At one point, I had walked by the washroom on the way back to go do something. I found both of the doors swinging, the male and the female bathrooms, like someone had just crashed through both of them. Quite a while later, I looked for something on the shelves, in the back near the employee entrance. Something suddenly had banged on the door, very hard. Something heavy had hit it, but only once. I remember opening it up, looking around. I saw nobody there. After everything like that, the shift just went on like normal. Really not much to say about it. I was happy when I finally got off, though. The first amount of sunlights had just started to come over the horizon as I had left for my car. I was clocking out a few minutes before I was supposed to, but I really didn't think that the people coming in would even care. When I go through the parking lot, I happen to see a car. It looks like a small limo, just sitting there, right in front of our restaurant. Through the light of the street lamps, I can make out the doors opening up. 2 people would get out, one on each side of the vehicle. It happened to be the guy and the girl who I happened to see beforehand. Only their appearance had changed. Their clothing were torn and ragged. I could see that the woman's dress clearly because it happened to be white. It was covered in dirt, with holes and tears. And their faces, they were terrifying. Their skin was bleach white, and their eyes, which originally were normal, were this beady black, like an oversized bug was looking at me. I just stood there. I was frozen. Right as I looked at them, the man had spoke, in a deep, filtered voice that seemed to echo from all around. "Would you like a ride? We happen to have room for just one more." Shaking my head was all that I could do. Without saying anything else, the 2 people, if you can even call them that, got into the vehicle, shut the doors. It suddenly pulled away. The lights weren't on at this point. I watched wide-eyed as it drove right down the road before disappearing into the darkness of the early morning. To this very day, I can't explain exactly what went on. All I know is that it freaked me the hell out. And I really wish that I wasn't the only one that saw that, because it makes me feel like I'm paranoid. Sadly, no one believes me. I happened to be in high school. I was stoned. Don't judge me. Cruising in my friend's Geo Storm. Don't judge her either. With several of my also stoned friends. When a trip through the drive-thru at McDonald's for a harmless 9-piece chicken nugget and a vanilla shake ended in tragedy, as well as a decent-sized emergency room bill. My third nugget was crunchy, in a bad way, mind you. I pulled what appeared to be a small bone from a single chicken claw attached to it out of my mouth. I screamed, inspiring bud-induced mass hysteria in front of the car for about 20 minutes, which turned into a full-force panic attack on my part. My friend's mother rushed me to the ER, where the nurses weren't even trying to hide their giggles and their snorts. It was eventually released, both with paperwork ordering me not to smoke any more marijuana. My friend's mom inspected the bone claw. It was merely a piece of gristle on the end. Twisted shape, though. I really swear that it was actually a chicken claw, or maybe even worse. I was grandma sitting for my friend one day, when I was in my early 20s. She insisted on having lunch at McDonald's, in the restaurant, so I obligatedly took her there. She ordered a filet-o-fish sandwich. We happened to sit down at a booth, littered with shreds of lettuce and ketchup smears. And while I was trying to enjoy my strawberry shake, Granny was retelling me with every disgusting rumor or bit of urban folklore that she had ever heard about McDonald's food. "They use rotten strawberries on the sundaes," she proclaimed, eyeing my shake suspiciously. I kept slurping, nonplussed, and assured her that the shakes were just fine. She kept chewing her sandwich for a few moments, then all of a sudden leaned close and whispered, "They use aborted fetuses in their hamburgers, so I always order the fish." I stopped drinking my shake, mid-slurp, and directed my nauseated gaze at Grandma, who was nodding affirmatively while she pushed a fry right into her mouth.
So my second encounter with a creep starts like this. 16-year-old female working as a customer care manager on front of a house for McDonald's. Now where I am from where you are, front of house, you are required to wear a light stripped top, a yellow neck scarf, and a pencil skirt to just below the knee, which has a small split at the back. I always button my shirt right up to the top, so I always looked very modest, and I would never say a McDonald's uniform is attractive. Oh, yes, it can be. On the right woman. Anyway, when I worked at McDonald's, I always put my all into everything I did. So I knew tills, drive-thru, drinks, serving, etc. I have always been someone that will happily have a conversation with someone to make their experience enjoyable, and hopefully make them want to come back. I was working on tills when a creepy customer came through the door. He was a tall, blonde bodybuilder, at least 50. He came to the till and ordered. Didn't look very happy, so I asked the obvious questions. How was your day? Etc. He made small talk, and we got chatting about both of our days. After that, he tells me it's nice to see someone smile around here. Everyone else is grumpy. Nice enough compliment. I was used to it. And he was right. Not many people here enjoyed their job. He starts coming in once a week, on Wednesday mornings. Each morning he would come in, we would have a chat. If I was on the floor, we would sit and chat at a table, and my managers were fine with this, as they knew it made each customer experience unique. We got to know each other's names. His name was Michael. I started college on a Wednesday and Thursday, and worked at McDonald's part-time, so my shifts always changed. I worked Mondays, Tuesdays, and Saturdays instead of Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, and sometimes extra days if they needed me. Michael started coming into McDonald's every day to find when I was working. First red flag. But I figured he is just lonely and needs someone to talk to. Anyway, he worked out my shift pattern and came in on Tuesdays instead of asking me why I wasn't in on Wednesdays because he missed our chats. He'd do this thing where he would let someone else go in front of him if it meant that he could come to my till instead. He would wait to one side to get served by me. Again, we chatted when he came in. This is where it got a bit more weird. Where we sat down talking, and he decided to really open up to me. He told me how him and his wife were going through a messy divorce. He started going into the details of why. He had punched his son. Now this guy was big, like he looked like a bodybuilder. I can't remember exactly what happened, but he had ended up smacking his wife too, I think. And here he was telling me about it. I'm no counselor after all. After proceeding to tell me how big his house was, he started telling me how he was living in the basement of the house that he owned, and it wasn't fair. I'm going to hit her again if this carries on. Apparently, the wife and son wanted him out, and they were going to have it, and not pay him for it. Blah, blah, blah. He wasn't letting that happen. His son won't talk to him. Blah, blah, blah. He started asking me for advice. A 16-year-old girl. I didn't really know what to say, so I just sort of said, everything happens for a reason, I suppose. And as I went to go get up, he asked me to sit back down with him. Now I had already been sat there for nearly half an hour, and I know I said my managers don't mind, but that's pushing it a little bit. So I told him I really had to go. He carried on trying to tell me to sit back down, but he let me go in the end. Now this may seem really unrelated, but trust me, it will make sense later on. In McDonald's you have the sauce pumps, right? Well, they are connected to a big bag in which the sauce has a popper in the top of it. You basically pop the tube into the popper on the bag, but Jesus Christ, this thing is fiddly. It can take me about 10 minutes just to get it connected. Then to put the heavy bag in the holder on the side is another 5 minutes. It's definitely a nightmare. The sauce had run out. The sauce ran out, and I had to fiddle to get it back in. Where the sauce dispenser is right opposite from where Michael always sits. I could feel his eyes burning into my back as I did this. And any time I'd turn around, he would be looking at me and just smiling. It made me feel a fair bit uncomfortable. But hey, It's my job, and you deal with this stuff all the time. Trust me, he is not the first person I've had perving at my bum. He came back a few more times, and each time I felt more and more uneasy. He started being a bit more personal, telling me he thought I was a pretty young girl, and we should meet up for coffee at some point, and I politely declined. Michael then said this, "Can I ask you something personal?" Depends. What is it? I can't promise I will answer. Are you a virgin? I'm not answering that, sir. What size are your boobs? I have a boyfriend, and I'm not comfy answering these questions, sir. Do you love your boyfriend? Would you leave your boyfriend for me? Me trying to scare him. My boyfriend is behind the counter, and I don't think he will be very happy with you asking questions like that, Michael. Just make sure he treats you right. You are a lovely girl. Anyways, I won't be coming back here for a while. So can I have your number? I don't think my boyfriend would be happy with that either. After that, I go to the back room to calm myself, as this is very unnerving for me. He was an older guy being very strange and asking super inappropriate questions of me. He knew my age as I had told him previously. The day continued. He had left. I continued and went home. When I woke up the next morning, I had a message on WhatsApp, a message on Facebook, and a friend request on there, and an Instagram follow. It was Michael. I don't know how, but he had found all my personal accounts just through my first name. The only way I can think of him finding out is by asking a colleague what my surname is and getting my number off one of them. Maybe he was friendly with one of the other workers and got my number from them. I don't know. He had messaged me saying how he needed to see more of my pictures. He had sent another message about how he loved looking at my ass when I went and bent over, crawling on the floor to fix the sauce bags, saying all the things he would love to do to me. At this point, I noped out and blocked him on everything. I still get messages though, even though he should have gotten the hint of me not wanting to talk to him. Luckily for me, I moved away a week or so after that happened. So Michael, let's not meet ever again.
I have had 2 run-ins with creepers at McDonald's. Here are both encounters. So at the time, I was a 16-year-old female working in McDonald's. Now at the McDonald's that I worked at, when you are on a headset where you answer people at the drive-thru, you are normally required to be at the first window to also take payments. My job position was customer care manager at the time, so my job was meant to be on the front desk, but 99% of the time, they required me to be behind the tills. So I was having a normal day, working a long shift, but having a normal working day. I happened to be on the headset, and first window that day. Anyway, my headset buzzes, letting me know there is someone at my drive-thru lane. I go through to the first window to answer my customer, and this is how the conversation ensued. Me: "Hello, welcome to McDonald's. What can I get you?" Him: "Oh, wow, you have such a beautiful voice." Voice was very grunty and husky sounding. Not off-putting. We have all sorts of customers come through McDonald's every day, so nothing gave me the creeps at this point. But his voice was very recognizable. "Thank you, sir. That was flattering. What can I get you?" "I haven't decided yet." He gave a long pause. "Can I just come around to the first window to decide? I want to see who I'm talking to." Now, we weren't very busy, and at this point, Creeper hadn't actually creeped me out yet. I mean, all he had done was pay me a compliment, and we quite often had people complain that they liked the face-to-face contact. So it was definitely not unusual to get a request like this. "Yeah, sir, that's fine." "Wow, you are just as beautiful as you sound." "Thank you, sir. Have you decided what you are having?" "Are you an option?" I laughed this off. It was my first job, and I wasn't the kind of rude person when someone was paying a compliment. I must also point out this man must have been in his 60s. I remember he had one lazy eye that looked to the left, painfully awful teeth, and patchy, dark brown hair. At this point, I was a little bit uncomfortable, but was still more than willing to take his order. I'll have a cheeseburger. Okay, sir. That's 99 cents. Are you paying cash or card? Without answering my question, he started asking where I'm from and how old I was, etc. But it wasn't until his last few questions that I got super weirded out. What time do you finish work? 7:30. Why? I didn't finish at 7:30, but 7:30 was the first number to come to my head when I blurted it out. I finished at 8 and would probably do some overtime too, but I wasn't about to let him know that. I can meet you if you want. I can pick you up outside and we can go somewhere. All the while he is saying this, he has this horrendous grin on his face and keeps winking at me. I'm really sorry, sir, but I'm not allowed to meet customers outside of work, as it's against our employee policy. This was utter bullshit, but I needed him to leave me alone. He carries on, insisting that not getting the picture. I cut the conversation short. Anyway, sir, sorry to be rude, but can I have the 99 cents for your cheeseburger? Ah, yes, sorry. See you at 7:30. Off he drove to the next window. I was gobsmacked. I'd already said I wasn't going to see him. I was a little bit shocked, but was not going to go over there and give him the satisfaction of talking to me again. My coworker came to me and said, "Ew, that guy had a major crush on you and wanted your number, but I didn't give it to him. He's old enough to be your dad." Anyway, I explained exactly what happened and how uncomfortable it had made me. 7:30 came, and my coworker is spooked. Creeper is waiting in the car park for me, just like he said he would. He sat halfway down the car park, and you could see him just staring in. Our car park wasn't very big. It only had 4 rows of parking spaces, so he wasn't that far away, and would have clocked me the minute I walked out of the door. At this point, I'm freaking out and head to the back of the store where hopefully he can't see me. I had to stay at the back of the store for 40 minutes before we knew it was safe to come out. Fast forward a week, and Creeper is back on the drive-thru. And guess who was back on headset and at the window number 1? Me. I heard his voice and recognized it straight away. I was hoping I'd hear your voice again. Why didn't you meet me the other day? Just 1 second, sir. I'll be with you in a second. I immediately handed my headset to my manager and gave him a quick briefing on the situation. He gladly took the headset and dealt with the customer from start to finish. When my manager came back to let me know he had gone, he said that the creeper had been asking my name, my address, and my surname. My manager said he was the most creepiest guy he has ever met, and I was never to have anything to do with him again. If he came back to work while I was there afterwards, my manager would have me head to the back room while he dealt with the creep. He still always asks about me, every single time. My second encounter with the creep starts like this. Again, I'm 16-year-old and female working as a customer care manager on the front house of our McDonald's. Now, where I am from when you are in the front of the house, I'm required to wear a light striped top, a yellow neck scarf, and a pencil shirt to just below the knee, which has a small split up the back. I always buttoned my shirt up right at the top, so I always looked very modest. And I would never say a McDonald's uniform is attractive. Anyway, when I worked at McDonald's, I always put my all into everything I did. So I knew tills, drive-thru, drinks, serving, etc. I have also been with someone that will happily have a conversation with someone to make their experience enjoyable and hopefully make them want to come back. I was working on tills when creeper number 2 came through the door. He was a tall, blonde bodybuilder, at least 50 though. He came to the till and ordered. Didn't look very happy, so I asked the obvious questions. How was your day, etc. He made small talk, and we got chatting about both of our days. After that, he tells me, "Nice to see someone smile around here. Everyone else is pretty grumpy." Nice enough compliment. I was used to it. He was right. Not many people here enjoyed this job. He starts coming in once a week, on a Wednesday morning. Each morning he would come in. We would have a chat. If I was on the floor, front of the house, we would sit and chat at a table, and my managers were fine with this, as they knew it made each customer service experience unique. We got to know each other's names. His name was Michael. I started college on a Wednesday and Thursday, and worked at McDonald's part-time, so my shifts changed a lot. I worked Mondays, Tuesdays, and Saturdays instead of Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, and sometimes extra days if they needed me. Michael started coming into McDonald's every day to find out when I was working. First red flag, but I figured he's just lonely and needs someone to talk to. Anyway, he worked out my first shift pattern and came in on Tuesdays instead of after asking me why I wasn't on Wednesdays because he missed our chats. He'd do this thing where he would let someone else go in front of him if it meant that he could come to my till instead. He would wait to one side to get served by me. Odd. Didn't think too much of it. Just thought he was a man that liked to be served by someone with a smile and had taken a liking to me. Again, we chatted when he came in. This is where it got a bit more weird. We were sat down talking, and he decided to really open up to me. He told me how him and his wife were going through a messy divorce. He started going into the details of why. He had punched his son. Now this guy was big. Like, he looked like a bodybuilder big. I can't remember exactly what had happened, but he ended up smacking his wife too, I think. And here he was, telling me about it. I'm no counselor after all. After proceeding to tell me how big his house was, probably to try and grip my attention, he started telling me how he was living in the basement of the house that he owned, and it wasn't fair to him. I'm going to hit her again if this carries on. Apparently a wife and son wanted him out, and they were going to have it, and not pay him for it, blah blah blah. He wasn't letting that happen. His son won't talk to him. He started asking me for advice, a 16-year-old girl. I didn't really know what to say, so I just sort of said, everything happens for a reason, I suppose. And as I went to get up, he asked me to sit back down. Now, I had already been sat there for nearly half an hour, and I know I said my managers don't mind, but that's pushing it a little bit. So I told him I really had to go. He carried on trying to get me to sit back down, but let me go in the end. Now, this may seem like total unrelated, but trust me, it will make sense later on. In McDonald's, you will have the sauce pumps, right? Well, they are connected to a big bag of sauce, which has a popper on the top of it. You basically pop the tube into the popper on the bag, but Jesus Christ, this thing is fiddly. It can take me about 10 minutes to just get it connected. Then to put the heavy bag in the holder on the side is another 5 minutes. It's definitely a nightmare. Right back to the story. The sauce had run out, and I had to fiddle about getting it in. Where the sauce dispenser is right opposite from where Michael always sits. I could feel eyes burning into the back. As I did this, and any time I turn around, he would be looking at me and just smile. It made me feel a fair bit uncomfortable. But hey, it's just my job, and you deal with this stuff all the time. Trust me, he is not the first person I've had perving at my bum. He came back a few more times, and each time I felt more and more uneasy. He started being a bit more personal, telling me he thought I was pretty, and he would meet up for coffee at some point, and I politely declined his offer. Michael then said this, "Can I ask you something personal?" Depends. What is it? I can't promise I will answer." "Are you a virgin?" "I'm not answering that, sir." "What size are your boobs?" "I have a boyfriend, and I'm not comfortable answering these questions." "Do you love your boyfriend? Would you leave your boyfriend for me?" Me trying to scare him. "My boyfriend is behind the counter, and I don't think he will be very happy with you asking questions like that. Just make sure he treats you right. You are a lovely girl after all. Anyways, I won't be coming back here for a while, so can I have your number?" I don't think my boyfriend would be happy with that either. After that, I go to the back room to calm myself, as this was very unnerving for me. He was an older guy, being very strange, and asking super inappropriate questions of me. He knew my age, as I had told him previously. It continued. He left. I continued and went home. When I woke up the next morning, I had a message on my WhatsApp, a message on Facebook, and a friend request on there, and an Instagram follow. It was Michael. I don't know how, but he had found all my personal accounts just through my first name. The only way I can think of him finding it out is by asking a colleague what my surname is, and getting my number of one of them. Maybe he was friendly with one of the other workers, and got my number from them. I don't really know. He messaged me saying he needed to see more pictures of me. My Facebook and Instagram are set to private, but he saw the main pictures for them and my WhatsApp photo. He had sent another message about how he loved looking at my ass when I bent over, crawling on the floor to fix the sauce bags. I don't know if my split in my skirt was revealing, but I don't think it was. Saying all the things he would love to do to me. At that point, I noped out and blocked him on everything. I still get messages, not sexual though, from other accounts he has made, wishing me a Merry Christmas, etc. Even though he should have gotten the gist of it by me not wanting to talk to him. Luckily for me, I moved away a week or so after that happened. So Michael, please, stop trying to contact me and leave me alone. Just to get a little note before we start it. My son looks nothing like me, and I have a baby face. So when people see my son and I, they see babysitter, not mother. I had just gotten off of work, and my husband was waiting for me with our son, who was 4 months old at the time. We ordered something to go, and my husband went to use the bathroom while my coworkers cooed over the baby at my pickup counter. I see this older man watching us, but I dismiss it because my son usually gets a lot of attention. Plus, he came to the McDonald's pretty regularly and didn't raise any red flags. He came up to us and smiled at my son and asked if he could hold him. I politely declined. He pulls a 20 out of his wallet. "Why don't you take this and get yourself a sandwich and leave the baby with me?" he said, trying to hand me the money. "No, thank you." I tried to be polite. I needed my job. We just got a new general manager, and I wanted to make a good impression. "Aren't you hungry? It's so hard to work 2 jobs. I'm sure if anything happened, the parent wouldn't mind." I was about to go off on him when my husband came out of the bathroom and placed himself between me and the man. "Oh, you must be the father." He offered my husband the money, but didn't talk about taking our son. We made our way out of the store, and the man followed, offering us money the entire way. My husband, fed up, stopped on a dime. The man ran into him, and my husband stared daggers at the man until he went back into the store. A few weeks later, he came back to the store. He ranted about how he could have given the baby a better life than that young man. I told him I was the mother and that he could get his sausage biscuit somewhere else because he wasn't welcomed here anymore. Creep that tried to buy my son. You shouldn't be trying to buy babies from random people. People are saying call the cops. Why didn't you call the cops? The police in my area are pretty useless. My coworkers and managers call the cops a lot, and 99% of the time there is nothing that they do. They'll take them to the station and have a chat, but ultimately, the police will let the man go without even a slap on the wrist, and I'll still be working at the McDonald's. I don't want to give them a reason to hurt my family when I know the police in my area won't act until it's escalated or already too late. When I was in the 5th grade, I recall going to McDonald's with my 2 twin friends and their mother. We were all standing in line, waiting to order. I was leaning on the wall behind me and looking around. This is when the altercation occurred. The old man was sitting at some sort of counter or table thing close to the registers. I don't remember what he was doing, but I recall his pen dropping. He seemed to notice it, but as I stated before, he was old, so he had a hard time leaning down. Being the sweet little 10-year-old that I was, I did a small jog over to him, bent over, and picked up the pen. As I did, he smiled at me and said, "Good thing my zipper wasn't down, huh?" Being so young, I totally didn't understand what the hell he meant, so I just awkwardly agreed and laughed it off. Afterwards, I went back with my friends, ordered the meal, and waited at the table with them. I finally asked my friend's mom what does "zipper wasn't down" mean, and she only gave me a confused look. When further pressed, I told her about the encounter, and she got so pissed that she tried to look for the man, but he wasn't there anymore. It wasn't until high school when I went back to that same McDonald's in which I remembered that experience, and that disgusting old man again. I would say, let's never meet, but I think we should. Being in the Army and growing as strong as I am, I probably would deck him in the face by now. This happened to me a few months ago, and it really creeped me out. Tickets for my favorite group was going on sale. Getting tickets for them is hell, and having a good laptop and Wi-Fi was key to keep up our chances of snatching a good seat. My university's Wi-Fi was complete ass, so I decided that I should go around to various fast food places and test their Wi-Fi to see which one was the best. This wasn't too hard to do since my university was walking distance from an abundance of various restaurants and fast food places, plus more food places that was a few minutes away by car or by bus. One of the places I decided to test was McDonald's, which was only a 5-minute drive from my university. I had my boyfriend take me, and we went inside and set up at my laptop, iPad, and my phone. We ordered something to snack on as well, because you can't pass up the opportunity of McDonald's fries if you're in McDonald's. In front of our table were a group of old guys who looked around the age where death would be knocking on their door soon. Me and my boyfriend and I were busy checking the Wi-Fi speed and conversing and giggling when one of the old guys decided to jokingly make a comment along the lines about how we shouldn't be doing homework on a weekend and how teenagers are always working or into their phones. I don't remember the exact wording he said, but it was along these lines. We both just awkwardly chuckled and then went back to what we were doing and tried to look busy. Apparently, old people don't care if you're busy whatsoever because he kept making jokes and speaking to us and telling us to stop working. Notably, the majority of his remarks and conversations were directed towards just me and not my boyfriend. Now, I was already kind of nervous because people randomly talking to me makes me a little angsty, especially ones who keep on rambling after I make it clear I don't want to talk anymore. But him being an older man added to my nervousness even more due to how creepy and predatory they can be. It's asking questions that are more personal, like where do I go to school, and how old I was, and whatnot. I was getting uncomfortable at this point, but answered his questions and told him the college I attended and how old I was. Looking back now, I don't think me telling him the truth about it was that harmful. He probably forgot as soon as I told him. He also starts complimenting me and saying how pretty I was. All the while he's doing this, the older men were either laughing or telling him to leave the poor girl alone. He starts to make some comments on me and my boyfriend's relationship as well, saying how we were cute and it's nice to see young couples and how long we've been with each other. After we answer, he laughs and says, "Well, if you ever get tired of him and want to look for someone else, I'm always available. You can kill me and just get some money." Laughs it off. I was 100% uncomfortable at this point, and just laughed along nervously while scooching closer to my boyfriend. I didn't think he was serious, though. He was just trying to joke around with us, seemed likable or cool, but him even suggesting that was creepy and pretty uncalled for. Finally leaves us alone after that. He chuckles to himself and goes back to talking to the old men. After a few minutes, I asked my boyfriend if he could grab me some things from the car because I wasn't feeling too good due to reasons. As soon as he left, the old guys and his friends get up too, and I hoped they would just walk out and pass by my table without saying a word to me. But apparently, I have bad luck. So instead, the same old man talking to me stops to stand right by me. He sees my university ID card and picks it up, making remarks of how good I look in the picture, and how I looked even prettier in person, and just looked me up and down. His friends chuckle and tell him to leave the poor girl alone, and I hoped he would clean the wax out of his ears and listen and just leave me alone. He just laughs and places hands on my shoulder, giving it a light squeeze while exclaiming, "No, I don't want to leave her alone. She's just too cute." At this point, I was way past uncomfortable. I knew nothing deadly was going to happen to me because we were in a public place, even though the McDonald's was empty. So I knew they weren't going to kidnap me or anything, but I was still severely creeped out. I was screaming in my head for my boyfriend to hurry the fuck back in here so we could leave, because I didn't know what to do besides nervously laugh. They linger for a little while. The old guy looks at my ID card one more time before putting it back down on the table and squeezes my shoulder once again. He finally leaves after telling me to have a good day. Seconds later, my boyfriend returns, and I'm sitting there trying to relax and calm my nerves. I might be overreacting at getting so nervous, because the threat of me being taken or hurt was most likely next to none, but old men hitting on younger girls just severely creeps me out beyond words. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night, and I'll see you next time.